Welcome to a reflection for the fourth Sunday of Easter. Throughout the Easter season, we get a passage from the Acts of the Apostles. And once again, I think what happens in the Acts of the Apostles speaks to us in this pandemic. One of my favorite theologians, Walter Brueggemann, he writes, "The whole book of Acts is about power from God that the world cannot shut down." In scene after scene, there's a hard meeting between the church and worldly authorities, because worldly authorities are regularly baffled by this new power and resentful of it. At one point in chapter 17, the followers of Jesus are accused of turning the whole world upside down. As our presiding bishop, Michael Curry, says, this new world is really right side up. They proclaim the resurrection of Jesus, and therefore the old powers of death were no longer defining reality. The new reality was oh so present in this passage that we read on the fourth Sunday of Easter. All who believed were together and had all things in common. They would sell their possessions and distribute the proceeds to all as any had need. Day by day, as they spent much time together in the temple, they broke bread at home and ate their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having the goodwill of all the people. Sounds good, right? They even renamed one of the new members Barnabas, which means son of encouragement. Wouldn't you love to have a son or daughter of encouragement in your life right now? Someone saying, "You can do this. I believe in you." And maybe you could be a son or daughter of encouragement for someone else. Distribute the proceeds to all as any had need. Throughout history, there are always people in need. And this pandemic has expanded the list of those in need. It has torn back the curtain on societal and political and financial forces that create an enormous chasm between rich and poor. I'm inspired by all of you who distribute the proceeds to all as any had need. Many of you are distributing food, taking in family members, contributing to organizations that are in direct contact with those in need, sewing masks for our under-equipped medical staff. Those are the Acts of the Apostles for our day. If you read all 28 chapters of Acts, you will see that everything was not as perfect as it was in today's passage from chapter 2. There were disagreements, mistakes, failures. But the Jesus movement kept on going because it was immersed in prayer and because it was humble enough to be a learning community. Let me give you one example. In chapter 12, Peter was arrested by King Herod. He was bound in chains and several guards watched over him. When the guards fell asleep, an angel came to Peter and set him free. Peter escaped the prison. The next day, when Herod heard Peter got away, he ordered all the guards executed. Go to chapter 16. This time, Paul and Silas are arrested. I told you the early Christians were always in trouble with the government. This time, the guards took extra precautions. Paul and Silas were placed in the innermost cell with their feet fastened in stocks. There was no angel this time, but an earthquake that broke open the chains and made the doors fly open. Paul and Silas could easily have escaped, but they didn't. They stayed right there. When the guard came the next morning and saw the doors open, he took his sword out to kill himself, knowing that his boss would have him executed for letting the prisoners escape. Then he heard Paul's voice, "Do not harm yourself. We are all here." The jailer ran in, saw Paul and Silas, and realized they had stayed to save his life. He was so moved by this act of compassion, he said, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" And by that, he meant really saved. What would it take to turn away from a world of cynicism and hate and toward a new world of hope and love? To show he was not merely giving intellectual assent to this new way of living, the jailer washed their wounds. He joined their mission of mercy, compassion, and hope. You see, the church learned and grew in compassion from chapter 12 to chapter 16, from Peter's arrest to that of Paul and Silas. In our day, our time of pandemic, can we choose to stay in place, at home, to slow down the spread of this disease and so save the lives of others? Do we still have a learning church, a church that grows in sacrificial love? Remember the Easter message. Love is stronger than death, and to that love you are returned.